There is a moment when people who once treated you carelessly suddenly become careful around you. They cannot explain why their tone has changed. They cannot understand why the person they once provoked, manipulated, dismissed, or underestimated no longer reacts the way they expected. Something has shifted. Something has happened inside you that they did not witness. And now they are looking at you differently because they are beginning to realize something they should have understood long ago. You are not to be played with. But listen to me carefully, because this is not about becoming cruel, arrogant, threatening, or revengeful. This is about what happens when God takes a person who has been repeatedly wounded and teaches that person how to stand without begging for permission. This is about what happens when the soul that once trembled at rejection becomes anchored in God. This is about the day when the people who thought they could control your emotions discover that they no longer have the keys to your peace. They thought your silence meant weakness. They thought your patience meant you would tolerate anything. They thought because you forgave, you had forgotten. They thought because you stayed calm, you did not notice what they were doing. They mistook your restraint for helplessness. They confused your kindness with desperation. They assumed that because you did not expose everything you knew nothing. But God was watching every conversation you survived, every betrayal you swallowed, every accusation you endured, every night you cried where nobody could see you. And while they were calculating how much more they could take from you, God was quietly rebuilding the part of you they thought they had permanently damaged. There are people who only respect boundaries after they encounter consequences. They do not understand your heart, they understand access. As long as they could reach you whenever they wanted, disturb you whenever they wanted, demand explanations whenever they wanted, and pull you back into emotional confusion whenever they wanted, they assumed they still had authority over you. But now, something has changed. You stopped explaining every decision. You stopped chasing people who walked away. You stopped defending yourself against every rumor. You stopped responding to every provocation. You stopped trying to convince people who had already decided to misunderstand you. And that silence is confusing them because they are discovering that your peace is no longer dependent upon their approval. Do not mistake this season for loneliness. There is a difference between being abandoned by people and being separated from what God never intended to remain attached to you. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually removal. Sometimes what feels like loss is protection. Sometimes the door that closes with painful finality is the very door you would have kept standing in front of if God had not given you enough strength to walk away. You were asking, why did they leave? While God was asking, why are you still trying to make them stay? You were grieving the relationship while God was protecting your future. You were mourning what you thought you needed while God was preparing you to discover what you actually need. And now they know you are different. Not because you announced it, not because you posted a warning, not because you threatened anybody. They know because your behavior changed. The person who used to answer immediately now thinks before responding. The person who used to apologize for everything now examines whether an apology is even necessary. The person who used to accept disrespect simply to preserve a relationship now understands that peace purchased through self-betrayal is not peace at all. The person who once begged to be understood now trusts God enough to let misunderstanding remain unanswered when answering would only create another battlefield. There is power in no longer needing to prove what God already knows. Think about that. You spent so much energy trying to make people believe your heart was sincere. You explained your intentions, you clarified your words, you defended your character, you tried to correct stories told about you. You wondered how people could believe something so false. You lost sleep over opinions that were never going to change. But God saw what they did not see. God heard what they did not hear. God knew what happened when nobody else was in the room. And when you truly understand that, something breaks loose inside you. You realize you do not have to hold a press conference every time somebody lies about you. Let them think what they want. Let them tell their version. Let them misunderstand your silence. Let them wonder why you are no longer available for the same arguments. Your assignment is not to control every person's opinion of you. Your assignment is to remain faithful to what God is doing in you. There is a kind of maturity that does not come from age. It comes from surviving enough disappointment to realize that not every battle deserves your voice. Some battles are won by refusing to enter them. You must understand something that many people learn too late. When you constantly react to people, they become the architects of your emotional life. They decide when you are angry. They decide when you are sad. They decide when you are distracted. They decide when you lose sleep. They can send one message and change your entire day. They can make one accusation and pull you into hours of explanation. They can withdraw affection and make you question your worth. But God is teaching you another way to live. He is teaching you to become emotionally governed by truth instead of provocation. That does not mean you become cold. It means you become discerning. It does not mean you stop loving people. It means you stop confusing love with unlimited access. It does not mean you become suspicious of everyone. It means you stop handing sacred parts of yourself to people who have repeatedly demonstrated that they do not know how to handle them. There is wisdom in loving people without allowing them to continually wound you. There is strength in forgiving someone while deciding that forgiveness does not automatically restore the same level of access. Somebody may be watching you right now and wondering, what happened to them? What happened is that you finally realized you were not created to spend your whole life negotiating for basic respect. What happened is that your relationship with God became more important than your reputation with people. What happened is that you became tired of betraying yourself just to keep somebody else comfortable. What happened is that you discovered that walking away from dysfunction can be an act of faith. What happened is that the person they could manipulate through guilt is no longer standing in front of them. And perhaps that is why some people have become uncomfortable around you. You are no longer predictable in the way they once knew you. They expected anger, but you gave silence. They expected begging, but you gave distance. They expected another explanation, but you gave none. They expected you to collapse when they withdrew their approval, but you continued walking. They expected you to return to the same environment after every apology, but this time you paid attention to patterns instead of promises. That is not revenge. That is wisdom. Revenge says, I want you to suffer because you hurt me. Wisdom says, I will not allow what happened to turn me into someone I am not. Revenge keeps you emotionally tied to the person who harmed you because you remain obsessed with what happens to them. Wisdom releases them from your hands and places your future back into God's hands. You do not need to become wicked to become strong. You do not need to become harsh to become powerful. You do not need to destroy somebody to prove that they cannot destroy you. God can defend you without making you bitter. God can elevate you without making you arrogant. God can separate you without making you hateful. God can restore you without requiring you to return to the place where you were broken. And this is where your story becomes different. The people who underestimated you were looking at your condition, but God was looking at your potential. They saw your tears and assumed you were finished. God saw those tears and knew they were watering something that had not yet appeared. They saw your isolation and assumed nobody wanted you. God saw the isolation as a season in which your attention could become undivided. They saw the door closing and thought your life was shrinking. God saw the door closing and knew you needed room to walk towards something new. You must stop measuring your future by the people who left you. Some of you have been carrying the sentence, if they rejected me, maybe I am not valuable. No. Their decision is not a divine measurement of your worth. Someone can fail to recognize gold because they do not know how to identify it. A person can walk away from something valuable because they are distracted by something temporary. Someone can misunderstand you because they only know the version of you that existed in their imagination. Their inability to recognize you does not reduce what God placed inside you. And perhaps the most painful realization is this: some people did not lose you because you changed. They lost access to you because they refused to change the way they treated you. There is a difference. Do not carry responsibility for another person's refusal to respect your boundaries. Do not keep asking what you could have done differently when the pattern was already obvious. Self-reflection is healthy, but endless self-blame is not humility. Sometimes you did make mistakes. Admit them, correct them, learn from them, but do not turn every betrayal into an interrogation of your own worth. You are allowed to say, I was wrong, without saying, I am worthless. You are allowed to say, I made a mistake, without saying, I deserve mistreatment. You are allowed to forgive yourself while still taking responsibility, and you are allowed to move forward. There is a moment when you stop trying to get justice from people and start trusting God with justice. That moment is liberating, because as long as you are trying to make someone understand how deeply they hurt you, part of your heart is still waiting for them to validate your pain. But they may never validate it. They may never apologize properly. They may never admit what they did. They may tell themselves a story in which they were the victim. They may move on as if nothing happened. Let them. You do not need their confession to begin healing. You do not need their apology to obey God. You do not need their regret to build your future. You do not need their approval to become who God is calling you to become. There are wounds that become lighter when you stop expecting the person who caused them to be the person who heals them. God can heal what people refuse to acknowledge. God can restore what people tried to diminish. God can rebuild what betrayal damaged. And God can teach you to walk again without carrying the person who hurt you on your back. Listen carefully. Being not to be played with does not mean becoming intimidating. It means becoming anchored. The strongest person in the room is not always the loudest. Sometimes the strongest person is the one who can be provoked and still choose wisdom. Sometimes strengths like leaving the conversation. Sometimes strength looks like refusing to answer an insult. Sometimes strength looks like saying no without giving a 10-minute explanation. Sometimes strength looks like walking away from money that comes with manipulation. Sometimes strength looks like refusing an opportunity because the price is your integrity. People may call that weakness because they have never learned the difference between control and character. But God sees the difference. There are people who can control others but cannot control themselves. They can dominate conversations but cannot govern their anger. They can manipulate relationships but cannot sit alone with their own conscience. They can make others afraid but cannot find peace within themselves. Do not envy that kind of power. It is not power. It is bondage wearing expensive clothing. Real strength is when your inner life no longer depends on external applause. Real strength is when you can receive criticism without collapsing and receive praise without becoming intoxicated by it. Real strength is when somebody leaves and you grieve honestly, but you do not abandon yourself. Real strength is when somebody betrays you and you refuse to become a betrayer. Real strength is when you can say, God, I do not understand this, but I trust you enough not to destroy myself trying to control it. That is the transformation people are beginning to notice. You are becoming harder to manipulate because you are becoming clearer about who you are. You are becoming harder to provoke because you are becoming more disciplined with your emotions. You are becoming harder to deceive because you have learned to examine actions instead of listening only to words. You are becoming harder to abandon because you have stopped abandoning yourself whenever someone else walks away. And this is why your next chapter cannot be built on the emotional rules of your previous chapter. If you keep carrying old fear into new relationships, you will punish innocent people for wounds they did not cause. If you keep expecting betrayal, you may interpret every imperfection as danger. If you keep assuming everyone will leave, you may sabotage the very connections God sends to you. So becoming strong does not mean becoming closed. It means becoming discerning without becoming cynical. Do not let one dishonest person teach you to distrust everyone. Do not let one betrayal convince you that love is always manipulation. Do not let one season of rejection make you reject yourself. Do not let one person's cruelty rewrite your understanding of your future. God is bigger than the people who hurt you. Your future is bigger than the room where they misunderstood you. Your calling is bigger than the opinion of the people who could not see it. And your life is not finished because a chapter ended badly. Some of you are about to discover that the very separation you cried about created the space you needed to grow. When certain voices became quieter, you finally heard your own thoughts. When certain demands disappeared, you finally had energy to build. When certain relationships ended, you finally had time to examine your values. When certain people stopped calling, you discovered that your life could still move forward. That does not mean their departure did not hurt. It means the pain was not the end of the story. You can grieve and grow at the same time. You can miss someone and still know they should not return. You can love someone and still refuse to repeat the same cycle. You can forgive someone and still keep the door closed. You can wish them well without giving them another opportunity to wound you. That is maturity. And there is another truth you must hear. Stop performing strength for people who are watching you. You do not have to prove that you are unbothered. You are allowed to have emotions. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to admit that something hurt. Strength is not the absence of pain. Strength is refusing to let pain become your master. Sometimes the bravest prayer is not, God, make me strong. Sometimes it is, God, I am tired. I cannot carry this the way I have been carrying it. Teach me what to release. And when you release it, do not immediately pick it back up because someone sends a message. Do not confuse familiarity with destiny. Do not confuse chemistry with character. Do not confuse an apology with transformation. Do not confuse someone's tears with evidence that their behavior has changed. Watch patterns. Listen carefully. Let time reveal what words cannot. People can promise anything in one emotional conversation. Character is revealed by what they repeatedly do when there is no immediate reward for doing the right thing. You have learned this because you paid for it with experience. Now use that experience as wisdom, not as a prison. The people who once played with your emotions may eventually discover that you are no longer available for their games. But your goal is not to make them regret losing you. Your goal is to become so aligned with God that whether they regret it or not becomes irrelevant. That is the highest form of freedom. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you genuinely do not care whether the person who hurt you finally understands you. Imagine looking at their name without your heart racing. Imagine hearing their opinion without feeling compelled to defend yourself. Imagine remembering the betrayal without needing revenge. Imagine seeing the place where you once begged for acceptance and realizing you would never beg there again. That is healing. Not forgetting, not pretending, not becoming emotionless, healing. And God can take you there. You may not feel strong today. You may still have questions. You may still wonder why certain people treated you the way they did. You may still replay conversations in your mind. You may still wish you had said something different. But do not let yesterday's confusion become tomorrow's identity. You are not the person who betrayed you. You are not the accusation made against you. You are not the rejection you experienced. You are not the relationship that ended. You are not the mistake you made. You are not the season in which everything seemed to collapse. You are a person still being formed, still learning, still growing, still capable of becoming wiser, stronger, calmer, and more faithful to God. And maybe the reason God allowed you to reach the end of your patience was because you had reached the beginning of your discernment. There are things you tolerated before that you will not tolerate now. There are conversations you used to entertain that you will no longer enter. There are environments you used to call normal that you now recognize as destructive. There are relationships you used to defend that you now understand were draining you. There are behaviors you used to excuse that you now recognize as patterns. That awareness is not bitterness, it is growth. But be careful here, because growth can become pride if you start believing you are above everyone who is still struggling with what you have learned. Do not do that. You are not stronger because you are better than them. You are stronger because God taught you through experiences you did not want. Stay humble. Stay teachable. Stay compassionate. You can have boundaries without contempt. Let God be the judge. Your responsibility is your character. Your responsibility is your obedience. Your responsibility is the way you treat people when you have the power to hurt them. Because one of the greatest tests of healing is what you do when the roles reverse. One day, you may have the opportunity to embarrass someone who embarrassed you. You may have the opportunity to expose someone who exposed you. You may have the opportunity to reject someone who once rejected you. You may have the opportunity to make someone feel small because they once made you feel small. And that is where you will discover whether you actually healed or merely became more strategic about revenge. Choose differently. Do not become the thing that wounded you. Let God handle what belongs to God. You do not need to destroy their reputation to protect your own. You do not need to announce every betrayal. You do not need to reveal every secret. You do not need to make everyone choose sides. Sometimes the most powerful statement is simply to live so differently that the old version of your life no longer has access to you. Your life becomes the evidence. Your discipline becomes the evidence. Your peace becomes the evidence. Your consistency becomes the evidence. Your integrity becomes the evidence. Your ability to walk away without hatred becomes the evidence. And perhaps one day, the people who underestimated you will look at you and realize that they never had the power they thought they had. They could hurt you, but they could not determine your future. They could reject you, but they could not cancel what God was developing in you. They could speak against you, but they could not rewrite what God knew to be true. They could close a door, but they could not control every door that exists. That is why you do not need to chase revenge. Keep walking, keep building, keep praying, keep learning, keep becoming. Keep your heart clean, keep your standards clear, keep your boundaries firm. Keep your dependence on God stronger than your dependence on people's approval. There will be days when people misunderstand you again. Do not assume every misunderstanding means you have done something wrong. Sometimes truth is uncomfortable to people who benefited from your silence. Sometimes boundaries offend people who enjoyed your lack of boundaries. Sometimes your growth will inconvenience people who prefer the version of you that needed them. That is not necessarily a sign that you are wrong, but examine yourself anyway. Ask God to show you where you are wrong. Ask God to remove pride from you. Ask God to expose your blind spots. Ask God to keep your strength from becoming arrogance. Ask God to give you courage without cruelty and confidence without conceit. Because the goal is not simply to become someone people cannot play with. The deeper goal is to become someone who does not play games with people either. No manipulation, no emotional punishment, no silent cruelty designed to make somebody suffer, no pretending not to care just to gain power, no using someone's weakness against them, no revenge disguised as boundaries, no pride disguised as independence. Let your strength be clean. Let your no be honest. Let your yes be sincere. Let your distance be peaceful. Let your forgiveness be genuine. Let your future be bigger than your anger. And when you finally understand that, you will realize that the greatest victory was never making them afraid of you. The greatest victory was becoming free from them. There is a difference between being feared and being respected. Fear can force temporary obedience. Respect is earned through consistency, integrity, wisdom, and self-control. Do not chase fear. Build character. Do not demand respect. Live in a way that makes disrespect lose access to you. You do not have to announce, "I am not to be played with." Your life will say it. Your boundaries will say it. Your discipline will say it. Your calmness will say it. Your standards will say it. Your ability to leave what violates your peace will say it. Your refusal to trade your integrity for temporary acceptance will say it. And most importantly, your trust in God will say it. Because when you know that God is your source, You stop treating every person like your provider. When you know that God sees you, you stop begging everyone to understand you. When you know that God can open doors, you stop worshiping the doors that people close. When you know that God can restore you, you stop chasing people who damaged you. When you know that God can guide you, you stop allowing fear to make every decision. This is the shift. This is what they are noticing. You are not becoming harder. You are becoming anchored. You are not becoming colder. You are becoming clearer. You are not becoming selfish. You are becoming responsible for the life God gave you. And there is a sacred kind of confidence that comes when you no longer need to prove that you are worthy of being treated well. You simply recognize that your dignity is not something you negotiate away. So if someone walks away because you established a healthy boundary, let them walk. If someone becomes angry because you stopped accepting disrespect, let them be angry. If someone calls you changed because you stopped participating in the old cycle, accept the accusation without fear. Yes, you changed. You were supposed to. You were not created to remain exactly as you were after everything you survived. The wound taught you something. The betrayal taught you something. The loneliness taught you something. The disappointment taught you something. The false accusation taught you something. The closed door taught you something. The silence taught you something. And now God is asking you not to waste those lessons. Do not go back to sleep. Do not return to the old patterns simply because they are familiar. Do not reopen doors merely because you are lonely. Do not accept crumbs because you remember what hunger felt like. Do not lower your standards because you are afraid of being alone. Do not abandon your peace because somebody suddenly remembers your value. If they come back, let their actions speak. If they apologize, let time test the apology. If they promise change, let consistency demonstrate it. You do not need to punish them. You simply do not need to ignore what you have learned. And if they never come back, your life still moves forward. That is freedom. Your future cannot depend on whether someone returns. Your healing cannot depend on whether someone apologizes. Your peace cannot depend on whether someone finally understands. Your identity cannot depend on whether someone chooses you. God chose you for the work of becoming who you were created to be. Now you must choose not to abandon that work. There is still life ahead of you. There are still lessons you have not learned. There are still doors you have not seen. There are still opportunities you cannot imagine. There are still people you have not met. There are still versions of yourself that have not emerged. Do not let a chapter that ended convince you that the book has ended. The people who thought they broke you may eventually discover that they only introduced you to a strength you had never needed before. The people who thought they silenced you may discover that you learned to speak with greater wisdom. The people who thought they could control you may discover that you learned to surrender your life to God instead. The people who thought your tears meant defeat may eventually see the person those tears helped shape. But when that day comes, do not turn around looking for their reaction. Keep going. Let them notice if they notice. Let them talk if they talk. Let them wonder. Your eyes should be forward, because your life is too valuable to spend the next 10 years proving something to people who misunderstood you for 10 minutes. You have prayed too many prayers to live permanently inside old pain. You have survived too much to keep behaving as though you are powerless. You have learned too much to keep ignoring obvious patterns, and you have come too far to hand your peace back to the same people who disturbed it. Stand up, not in arrogance. Stand up in faith. Stand up with humility. Stand up with wisdom. Stand up with a heart that has been tested and refuses to become corrupt. Stand up knowing that God saw every hidden tear. Stand up knowing that God knows what people never knew. Stand up knowing that your worth did not disappear when somebody rejected you. Stand up knowing that your future was never controlled by the people who walked away. And when fear whispers, what if they do it again? Answer with wisdom. I am not who I was before. When insecurity says, what if nobody chooses me? Answer, I will not abandon myself. When anger says, make them pay, answer, God is my judge and I will keep my hands clean. When loneliness says, go back, answer, familiar does not automatically mean safe. When shame says, you should have known better, answer, I learned and now I know better. When the past says, you are still broken, answer, God is still working. And when people look at you and say, you have changed, do not be ashamed, tell yourself the truth. Yes, I changed. I had to. I learned that kindness without boundaries can become self-destruction. I learned that forgiveness does not require foolishness. I learned that silence can be wiser than explanation. I learned that peace is worth protecting. I learned that not everyone deserves access to every part of me. I learned that God can take me through rejection without allowing rejection to define me. I learned that I can lose people and still find myself. I learned that I can be misunderstood and still remain truthful. I learned that I can be alone without being abandoned by God. And now they know. They know you are not available for the old games. They know guilt no longer controls you the way it once did. They know intimidation no longer makes your decisions. They know empty promises no longer impress you. They know you are watching patterns. They know you have learned to walk away. They know you are no longer begging for what should have been given freely. But let them know something else through the way you live. You are not becoming cruel. You are becoming wise. You are not becoming arrogant. You are becoming secure. You are not becoming heartless. You are becoming discerning. You are not becoming revengeful. You are becoming free. And the greatest evidence of your transformation will not be the way you respond to those who hurt you. It will be the way you respond when God gives you something better. Will you recognize it? Will you trust it? Will you protect it? Will you have enough peace inside you to receive healthy relationships without sabotaging them because of old wounds? Will you have enough humility to admit when you are wrong? Will you have enough courage to say what you need without demanding that others read your mind? Will you have enough wisdom to distinguish genuine love from manipulation? This is the deeper work, because God is not simply trying to make you difficult to hurt. God is teaching you how to live without constantly expecting hurt. That is a much greater freedom. So breathe, let the old accusations lose their grip. Let the old arguments become quiet. Let the people who chose to misunderstand you keep their opinions. You do not have to drag every accusation into your future. You do not have to carry every betrayal into your next relationship. You do not have to make your next chapter pay for what happened in the previous one. Take the lesson. Leave the poison. Keep the wisdom, relish the resentment. Keep your boundaries, relish the obsession. Keep your faith, relish the need to control the outcome. And walk. Walk with God. Walk with dignity. Walk with a clean heart. Walk without begging. Walk without threatening. Walk without looking back every 5 steps to see who is watching. The people who once thought they could play with your heart may notice your transformation. Some may respect it. Some may resent it. Some may try to test it. Some may attempt to pull you back into the person you used to be, but you do not have to fight them. You simply have to remain who you have become. And when the old pattern knocks, you do not owe it an invitation. When the old manipulation returns, you do not owe it an explanation. When the old disrespect appears again, you do not owe it another opportunity. You can simply say, in the quiet strength of your heart, that season is over. Then keep moving. Because there is something ahead of you that requires the version of you that betrayal helped build, but pain did not destroy. There is something ahead that requires discernment, something that requires patience, something that requires courage, something that requires a stronger relationship with God than you have ever had before. And perhaps this entire season was preparing you for that responsibility. Maybe you thought God was only removing people. Maybe God was also removing fear. Maybe you thought God was closing doors. Maybe God was also closing cycles. Maybe you thought you were losing relationships. Maybe you were recovering your identity. Maybe you thought you were being forgotten. Maybe you were being redirected. Maybe you thought nobody saw you. God did. And now you understand why you had to become different. So let them know without saying a word. Let them know through your peace. Let them know through your discipline. Let them know through your integrity. Let them know through your boundaries. Let them know through the life you build, not because you need their approval, not because you want revenge, not because you want them to regret what they did, but because you finally understand that your life is not a courtroom where every person who hurt you must be convicted before you are allowed to move forward. My beloved brothers and sisters, listen carefully, because today I am going to speak about something many do not want to hear, yet it burns in the heart like fire from above. It is a truth that has been ignored, watered down, and even rejected by those who call themselves wise. But when God clarifies a matter, who are we to argue? When God sets His word in order, what man has the power to change it? Today, I must speak boldly about the sin of cremation, for God has made it clear. This is not a topic of comfort, but of conviction. This is not an idea of man, but a command of God. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear, for your destiny depends on it. In our world, many traditions rise from the wisdom of men. They call it culture, they call it freedom, they call it a choice. But when God that declares a thing as sin, culture cannot save you, tradition cannot excuse you, and freedom cannot justify you. Cremation is one of those things that men have accepted, yet God has condemned. The fire that burns the flesh is not the fire of holiness. It is the fire of defilement. It is the fire of rebellion against the order of God. Do not be deceived. When God made man, He formed him from the dust of the earth, and to the dust he shall return. The body is not ours to destroy. It belongs to God. Even in death, it must be returned to the ground with honor, not consumed by flames like an offering to idols. Think deeply. The body you carry is not simply skin and bone. It is the temple of God's breath. From the beginning, God breathed into man and made him a living being. That same body is sacred, chosen by God, And even when the soul departs, the body holds dignity because it was fashioned by his hand. To cremate is to dishonor the temple. To cremate is to spit upon the dust that God has sanctified. To cremate is to take into human hands what belongs only to God. The return of the body to the soil. Hear me clearly. Cremation is not just a cultural practice. It is an act of rebellion against the very design of God. Burial is not a human tradition, it is God's command. Every prophet, every servant, every righteous one was laid into the ground, not burned into ashes. From the beginning of time, those who honored God knew that the body must be returned to the earth, for this is the cycle ordained by the Creator. But the nations who rejected God's ways, the nations that bowed to idols, they are the ones who burned their dead, thinking the smoke carried them into the heavens. This is not worship, it is abomination. Beloved, I must ask you, who will you follow? The order of God or the customs of the pagans? Will you return your body to the earth in humility, or will you cast it into the fire in rebellion? Many say, it does not matter what happens to the body, the soul has already departed. But hear me. When God has spoken, it matters. The smallest detail matters. The dust belongs to God. The bones belong to God. The ground waits to receive what God has formed. It is not for you to decide what is sacred or not. It is for God alone. Let me tell you this with authority. Cremation brings a curse upon families who choose it. For when you choose fire over earth, you choose the way of destruction over the way of surrender. Fire consumes in wrath, while earth receives in peace. Fire is the judgment of God, but earth is the cradle of His design. Do not confuse the fire of punishment with the fire of holiness. To burn the body is to place it under judgment when God has called it to rest in the soil. This is why so many nations walk under hidden curses. They burn their dead, thinking it is noble, thinking it is respectful, thinking it is release. But in truth, they have aligned with rebellion. They have chosen man's way, not God's way. They have mocked the order of dust to dust, and they wonder why their land is cursed, why their families are restless, why their peace is stolen. God is not mocked. What He has ordained, no man can undo. And I speak to those who argue and say, but God is merciful. God does not care about the body after death. Be careful with such words. Mercy does not cancel order. Mercy does not erase law. Mercy is not permission for disobedience. God is merciful to the repentant, not to those who rebel and justify sin. The moment you say, God does not care, you are calling Him a liar, for God cares about every detail He created. He formed the dust, He breathed into it, He commanded the return of it. Do not play with His order. Do not twist His truth to justify man's rebellion. When you bury, you honor God. When you bury, you humble yourself to His command. When you bury, you testify that you came from the earth, and you shall return to the earth. Burial is not just a tradition, it is a declaration of faith in God's design. But cremation is a declaration of defiance, a silent voice that says, I will choose fire, I will choose my own way, I will not return as you commanded. Do you see the danger? Do you feel the weight of this? The fire that men light for cremation is not holy fire. It is strange fire. It is the same strange fire that led nations into idol worship, into sacrificing their children, into offering their dead to gods that were no gods at all. This is why God abhors it. This is why He clarifies it. This is why He warns us not to walk in the ways of the nations, not to follow their abominations, not to mix light with darkness. Beloved, do not be deceived by the softness of culture. Culture will excuse anything. Culture will tell you that evil is normal, that sin is choice, that rebellion is freedom. But when God speaks, culture bows down. When God commands, tradition must die. When God clarifies, there is no room for argument. Cremation is sin because it breaks the command of God concerning the body. It rejects dust to dust and chooses fire to ash. It replaces humility with pride. It takes what is sacred and makes it common. I must tell you with urgency, if your family has practiced cremation, you must repent and break the curse. You must ask God for mercy. You must stand before Him and declare that you will not follow the way of fire, but the way of earth. You must separate yourself from the rebellion of nations. For as long as you continue in their ways, you share in their judgments. But when you return to God's way, you open the door for His blessing to rest upon your household. Beloved, I must press this truth deeper into your heart. When God speaks of life and death, He does not speak carelessly. Life is His creation. Death is not the end. It is a doorway into eternity. The way we handle the body, even after the soul departs, is a testimony of what we believe about God. When a man is laid in the ground, it is not merely flesh being buried. It is a declaration of faith that the dust belongs to God and will return to Him. But when a man is burned into ashes, it is a proclamation of rebellion, a testimony of disregard, and a denial of the order that God has set. Do not underestimate this. Every act, every choice, every detail matters in the eyes of God. Men may laugh and say, it makes no difference. The soul has already gone. But think, does God create anything without purpose? Does He form dust into flesh and declare it sacred only for us to decide its end by fire? No, my beloved, God does not create without meaning. The body has meaning. The burial has meaning. The return to dust has meaning. It is not symbolic. It is sacred order. Fire in the hands of God is always a tool of judgment, purification, or destruction. Look at the earth. Look at the scriptures. When God consumes with fire, it is because of sin. Fire falls as wrath, as a sign of rejection, as an act of cleansing. But never once has God commanded fire as the way to honor a body He formed. Never once did God say, burn what I have made. He said, return it to the dust. That is the law. That is the truth. That is the way. Do you see the deception of the world? The nations, without God, burn their dead as if it were noble. They scatter ashes as if the body is worthless. They say, it is cheaper, it is easier, it is practical. But let me ask you, when did obedience to God ever come down to cost? When did honoring His command ever come down to convenience? Do you think God looks at the one who excuses rebellion and says, because it was cheaper, I will accept your disobedience? No, God demands honor above economy, truth above tradition, obedience above ease. And I must warn you, cremation does not only dishonor the dead, It opens the door for spiritual confusion among the living. Families who burn their loved ones often carry a heaviness, a restlessness, a sense of guilt they cannot explain. Why? Because the soul has departed, but the act has testified against God's order. The earth that should have received the body has been denied. The fire that was never commanded has been chosen. And this disobedience lingers like smoke in the spiritual atmosphere, unsettling hearts, troubling families, breaking peace. Beloved, hear me with urgency. This is why God clarifies it. He does not want His people to fall into the practices of the nations. He does not want you to be deceived by tradition. He does not want your family to be bound by the curses of disobedience. He wants you to walk in His light, in His truth, in His perfect order. He wants you to honor Him in life and in death, in breath and in dust. He wants every part of your being, soul, spirit, and body to testify of His greatness. Look at the ground beneath your feet. That soil is not ordinary. It is holy. God has chosen the earth as the cradle of man's beginning and the resting place of man's end. You walk on dust every day, but that dust holds the mystery of life. God shaped it into flesh. God sustained it with His breath. And God commanded that it must return. To deny the ground its rightful possession is to defy God's decree. To give the body to fire is to give it to destruction when God has appointed peace. And let me tell you, my beloved, there is something powerful about burial. When a body is placed into the ground, the earth becomes a witness. The soil testifies, this belongs to God. This has returned as commanded. The ground itself receives the body in obedience to God's design. There is peace in burial, for it aligns with divine order. But when fire consumes the flesh, there is no testimony of obedience. The fire testifies of rebellion. The smoke rises, but it does not ascend as honor. It ascends as defiance. Some of you may still wonder, but what if the person did not know? What if they were deceived by tradition? Beloved, ignorance is not greater than truth. God calls us now to clarity. What was hidden is revealed. What was ignored is being exposed. God is giving you this knowledge not to condemn you, but to save you. For when you know the truth, you are responsible to walk in it. When you know the command, you are called to obey it. From this day forward, you cannot claim blindness. You have heard, you have been warned, you have been given light. This is why you must not only obey for yourself, but teach your children, your families, your communities. For the deception of cremation has spread like wildfire. It has entered households, it has entered lands, it has entered nations. And many do it without question, without prayer, without seeking God. But you, beloved, are called to stand apart. You are called to walk differently. You are called to obey God's word, even when the world mocks you. Let them laugh, let them scorn, let them call you foolish. But know this, the wisdom of God will always outlast the foolishness of men. Do not fear being indifferent. Do not fear rejecting the customs of the nations. Do not fear honoring God when others dishonor Him, for the blessing of God will rest on the obedient, while the curse rests on the rebellious. Your family will be preserved. Your generations will walk in light. Your land will be free from hidden bondage. if you choose God's way over the world's way. Beloved, it is not about ashes, it is about authority. It is not about tradition, it is about truth. It is not about choice, it is about command. God has spoken, and when God clarifies, all excuses fall silent. Cremation is not a personal matter, it is not a cultural option. It is sin because it violates divine order. And sin, no matter how small men consider it, always separates us from God's blessing. This is why you must rise today with conviction. Decide in your heart, I will honor God in life and in death. I will not hand my body to fire. I will return to the dust as commanded. I will not follow the nations, I will follow God. This decision may make you stand alone, but it will make you stand under the covering of God's favor. This choice may separate you from tradition, but it will connect you to divine truth. This obedience may offend some, but it will please God. And what greater reward is there than to please the one who formed you? Beloved, listen with trembling hearts, for what I speak now carries the weight of eternity. When God commands, it is not merely suggestion, it is eternal law. And when God clarifies, it is not for debate but for obedience. The sin of cremation is not just in the fire that consumes the body, but in the spirit of rebellion that fuels it. Every flame that burns flesh outside of God's order is a statement against His authority. It is a declaration that says, I will not return to the earth as commanded. I will chart my own way. And do you not see? That is the very language of pride. The same pride that led the first rebellion in heaven. Cremation does more than desecrate the body. It disrupts the testimony of God's cycle of life. From the beginning, God said, dust you are, and to dust you shall return. This is not merely poetry. This is not merely a symbol. It is the foundation of how life and death are understood before the throne of God. To cremate is to rip apart that testimony and replace it with a counterfeit declaration. Dust you are, but to ashes you shall become. That is not God's word. That is man's distortion. That is rebellion clothed in ritual. The nations of the earth that embraced cremation did not do so out of reverence for God. They did so because they had lost the knowledge of Him. They burned their dead to honor idols, to release spirits, to please false gods. And now, in modern times, people say, we do not do it for idols, we do it for convenience, we do it for cost. But beloved, sin does not lose its power because you rename it. Rebellion does not become obedience because you rebrand it. What began as abomination remains abomination. Even if men dress it in new garments, hear me with your spirit open. God does not measure obedience by the reasons you give. He measures it by the actions you take. You may say, but my heart was sincere. Yet, if your actions violate His command, sincerity will not erase disobedience. You may say, but I did not know. Yet ignorance will not stand when truth has been revealed. God has made His order clear as dust to dust. Anything else is rebellion. Anything else is sin. And do not think this matter small, for when God calls something sin, it carries weight. The act of cremation is not hidden in the corner. It rises as smoke into the heavens, declaring defiance. Families who accept it invite unrest into their homes, not because God delights in punishing, but because disobedience always carries consequence. The spirit of rebellion, once entertained, opens doors to confusion, sorrow, and hidden curses. Families find themselves wrestling with heaviness, unable to explain the unease. They do not know that the act of fire against flesh has testified against them before God. Beloved, let me tell you something deep. The body you carry is not merely yours. It is on loan from God. It is His craftsmanship, His temple, His design. To burn it is to treat the temple as rubbish. To burn it is to say, this which God has formed is fit for fire. Do you not tremble at such a thought? The body, though perishable, was made with divine hands. And God demands that what He formed be returned with dignity, not destroyed with flames of pride. This is why every prophet, every righteous man, every servant of God was placed into the ground. It was never a debate. It was never a question. It was divine order. To rest in the earth is to testify of submission. To be buried is to declare, I came from God's dust and I return to God's dust. It is humility in its purest form, but cremation robs you of that testimony. Cremation silences that declaration. Cremation makes the final act of your body one of rebellion instead of surrender. Some of you may think, but fire purifies, does it not? Yes, fire in God's hands purifies. But when fire is chosen in defiance of His command, it is not purification, it is desecration. Fire purifies when God lights it, not when man manipulates it. Fire refines when God ordains it, not when culture demands it. To cremate in the name of purification is to clothe sin with false righteousness. Do not be deceived. God is not fooled by names. He sees the heart and the action. Beloved, understand this clearly. Burial is not tradition, it is obedience. Cremation is not choice, it is sin. And when you see the world embracing cremation, you must understand it is a symptom of their distance from God. They have lost the reverence for the sacredness of life. They no longer see the dust as holy. They no longer recognize the dignity of the temple. They no longer fear God. That is why they burn what He formed. That is why they reduce to ashes what He called precious. But you are not called to walk like them. You are called to walk in the fear of God. You are called to honor Him in all things, even in death. You are called to be a testimony, not a contradiction. When the world chooses fire, you must choose dust. When the nations burn, you must bury. When others rebel, you must obey. For in your obedience, you carry not only your own testimony, but the testimony of generations after you. Do you not see? When you bury as God commanded, you plant a seed of obedience that your children will inherit. They will know the order of God because you honored it. They will respect the dust because you returned to it. They will fear God because you demonstrated fear in the smallest of details. But if you cremate, you pass down rebellion. You teach your children that convenience is greater than command, that cost is greater than obedience, that tradition is greater than truth. And they will follow that path, not knowing it leads to bondage. Beloved, God is calling you now to stand apart. This is not a message for those who are comfortable. This is a message for those who are willing to obey, even when the world resists. This is a message for those who fear God more than they fear culture. This is a message for those who desire blessing more than acceptance. If you will honor God in this, He will honor you in ways you cannot imagine. If you will return to dust, He will return to you blessing. If you will reject fire, He will cover you with peace. And let me tell you a mystery the earth remembers. The soil holds testimony. When a body is placed in the ground in obedience, the earth itself becomes a witness before God. But when fire consumes, there is no witness but smoke, a witness of rebellion. Which testimony do you want recorded in the heavens over your life? Which testimony do you want echoing in eternity? That you obeyed God, or that you chose the way of the nations? This, my beloved, is why God clarifies it. He leaves no room for confusion. He leaves no space for argument. He declares with finality, the body must return to the dust. And those who obey will walk in blessing, while those who defy will reap the consequence of rebellion. Beloved, hear me again with the ears of your spirit, for this matter must not be taken lightly. The command of God is not a small thing. Every word He speaks carries eternity within it. And when He establishes order, He seals it with His own authority. Dust must return to dust, for that is the decree of the Creator. To cremate is not simply an alternative method. It is a rebellion against that decree. It is to rewrite the command of God with human hands, to trade divine truth for human opinion. And no man can alter what God has fixed from the foundation of the world. Think of this, beloved. Fire was never given to man as a way of honoring the body. Fire, from the beginning, was a tool of God's judgment. It was fire that fell on the rebellious cities. Fire that consumed the disobedient. Fire that served as a symbol of wrath. When you choose fire to end a life, you align the body with judgment instead of rest. You bring the imagery of punishment upon what God declared should be returned in peace. Do you see the depth of this? Do you understand why this angers the heart of God? The fire He reserved for judgment has been twisted into a ritual for the dead. It is a mockery of His order. Burial, however, carries humility. Burial speaks of surrender. To be placed in the ground is to declare, I came from God's earth and I return to God's earth. That act itself preaches a sermon to the living. It reminds those who watch that all flesh is temporary, that pride must fall, that the ground waits for us all. It is a testimony of submission to God's design. But cremation silences this testimony. It shouts instead, I will choose my own end. I will not return as commanded. I will burn, I will scatter, I will take control. And in that moment, the final act of the body testifies of defiance instead of obedience. Beloved, the nations of the world embraced cremation when they abandoned the knowledge of God. They turned their faces from Him and followed after idols. They thought fire would carry the soul into the heavens, but God said no. He alone governs life and death. He alone receives the soul. He alone commands the dust. To burn the body is to practice what idol worshippers did, even if you claim no idol. For the origin of cremation is rebellion, and the root of rebellion is always sin. Do not say in your heart, but times have changed. We are modern. We know better. Does God change with time? Does His word expire with culture? Is His decree shaken by progress? Never! God is eternal, His commands are eternal, and His order is eternal. What was sin thousands of years ago remains sin today. What he called rebellion then, he calls rebellion now. God does not bend to the age of men. Men must bend to the eternal God. And beloved, understand this: cremation is not only a violation of divine order, it is a theft of sacred identity. The body, though temporary, carries the mark of God's craftsmanship. It is the temple that held his breath. To burn it is to treat that temple as common waste. It is to strip away the dignity God himself placed upon flesh. Burial, on the other hand, preserves that dignity. Even in decay, the body is honored. Even in death, it is respected. Burial acknowledges that this body was once filled with the life of God, and it must be returned with reverence. Let me show you a mystery. The earth itself was chosen by God to cradle humanity. It was soil that received his breath to form the first man. It was ground that bore the footsteps of prophets and servants. And it is earth that waits to receive the body back in its final act of surrender. Do you not see how holy the ground is? Do you not see how sacred dust has become? The dust is not ordinary. It is a divine cycle, a holy covenant. To cremate is to interrupt this covenant. It is to reject the earth that God sanctified for this very purpose. And I must tell you, rebellion always begins in the smallest of compromises. It rarely comes boldly at first. It begins with a thought, a justification, an excuse. It is cheaper. It is quicker. It is just culture. It does not matter. But these small excuses open the door to great disobedience. Soon the act becomes normal, and generations forget the command. Children grow up believing fire is right and the truth is buried. This is how nations fall away from God, not in one loud step, but in many quiet ones. And cremation is one of those quiet steps into rebellion. Beloved, you must choose carefully what testimony you leave behind. Your burial is not just for you. It preaches to those who live after you. When you return to dust, your family sees obedience. They see the fulfillment of God's decree. They are reminded to honor his word. But if you cremate, they see rebellion dressed as tradition. They see convenience dressed as culture. And without knowing it, they inherit your defiance. Generations then repeat the sin, not realizing they are carrying a curse instead of a blessing. I tell you this with urgency. If your family has embraced cremation in the past, you must break the pattern now. You must repent before God, asking for his mercy, and commit that you will honor his order. Do not pass this rebellion to your children. Do not let this deception root itself deeper in your bloodline. Choose today whom you will serve, the God of order or the traditions of men. Choose dust over fire, obedience over rebellion, blessing over curse. And beloved, let me remind you, obedience always brings blessing. It may cost you more. It may look strange to the world. It may invite questions or even mockery. But obedience opens the heavens. Obedience invites God's covering. Obedience places your family under divine protection. Do not trade blessing for convenience. Do not exchange favor for ease. Stand firm, honor God, and let your final act be one of surrender, not defiance. For the smoke of cremation rises for a moment and disappears, but the testimony of burial lasts for generations. The ashes speak of rebellion, but the dust speaks of obedience. The The fire testifies against you, but the soil testifies for you. The choice is clear. God has spoken, God has clarified. Dust to dust, not fire to ash. Beloved, hear this final word with the weight it deserves. God has spoken, and His command is unshakable. The body must return to the dust from which it was formed. Cremation is not a harmless choice. It is rebellion, a denial of divine order, a fire that testifies against obedience. Burial, however, is surrender, humility, and honor. It is the final act of declaring, I belong to God and I return to Him as He commanded. Choose dust over fire. Choose obedience over defiance. Choose the blessing of God over the traditions of men. For in honoring God even in death, you secure His favor for generations to come. My beloved, listen closely, because I must tell you what your spirit has been waiting to hear. God is about to release a financial miracle in your life. I am not speaking of ordinary blessings, not of small, casual favors that pass unnoticed, but of the kind of breakthrough that shifts the entire direction of your future. There are moments when heaven leans down, when God looks at the struggles of His children and says, it is enough. Now I will lift them. Now I will open doors no one can close. Now I will make a way where there has been no way. I believe with every fiber of my being that you are standing at the edge of such a moment. So many of you have walked through deserts of financial pain. You have cried in silence because the debts weighed heavier than your strength. You have watched opportunities slip from your hands as though the world was against you. You have tried, you have labored, you have prayed until your voice broke in the night. And still you wondered, when will you remember me? Let me tell you this with boldness. God never forgot you. Every tear you shed has been recorded. Every cry of your heart has been heard. Every sacrifice you made when no one else was watching has risen like incense before Him. And now the season is shifting. What was withheld is about to be released. When God moves, He does not move with limitation. He does not trickle blessings as men do. He pours out abundance until there is no room left to contain it. He turns empty nets into nets breaking with fish, barren fields into harvest overflowing, dry hands into hands that cannot carry all that is given. That is the God who is about to visit your house. That is the God who is about to speak into your situation. That is the God who is preparing to pour out a financial miracle so extraordinary that even your enemies will have to say, surely this is the hand of God. But you must understand this, a miracle is not random. A miracle is a divine appointment. It is God stepping into time with eternity's power. And for those who have been faithful in the little, for those who have trusted Him when every door was closed, for those who refused to curse Him in the night of lack, but kept their faith alive, this miracle is for you. It is not by chance that you are hearing these words now. God Himself has aligned this moment because He is stirring your faith to receive what He has already prepared. Do not let your past disappointments choke this promise. Many of you have prayed before and felt nothing changed. Many of you gave, you sowed, you waited, and it seemed as though heaven was silent. But let me tell you the truth, heaven is never silent. God delays only to multiply. What you thought was lost time was actually seed time. And now harvest time is upon you. The same ground that looked barren is about to burst forth with life. The same bank account that looked like a desert is about to overflow like a river. The same closed doors are about to swing open wide. God is not limited by economies. He is not bound by recessions, inflations, or the calculations of men. When He decides to bless you, He will do it in such a way that people will marvel. Some of you are waiting for opportunities to appear in familiar places, but God is about to bring resources from unexpected directions. Contracts you did not apply for will find your name. Business ideas you thought were too small will suddenly explode with demand. Strangers will step into your life carrying the very provision you asked God for in secret. This is how He works. Mysterious, powerful, unstoppable. And I must tell you, prepare yourself, for when the miracle comes, it will not come quietly. It will not be a hidden thing, whispered in a corner. It will be loud enough to silence the mouths of doubters. It will be visible enough. It will be visible enough that even those who mocked your faith will bow their heads in shame. God does not bless you so that you alone may rejoice. He blesses you so that the world may see His power, so that His name may be exalted. Your financial miracle will be a testimony, a light on a hill that cannot be hidden. But hear this, before the miracle comes, God often tests the heart. Not to harm you, but to prepare you. Some of you are in that testing right now. You are being asked to trust when there is nothing left to trust in. You are being asked to give when it feels like you have nothing left to give. You are being asked to believe when the evidence screams the opposite. This is the furnace of faith. And if you endure, if you stand firm, if you refuse to let go of your confidence in God, then nothing can stop the release that is coming. I tell you boldly, your poverty will not define you. Your debt will not bury you. Your lack will not destroy you. God is about to reverse what the enemy tried to lock you in. You may have started at the bottom, but you will not remain there. You may have been ignored, overlooked, underestimated, but the hand of God is lifting you into a place of influence, into a position of overflow. You will not only have enough for your needs, but you will have more than enough to become a blessing to others. That is the true sign of God's miracle. Not just survival, but overflow. My friend, prepare your heart. Prepare your faith. The sound of abundance is near. The smell of rain is in the air. The drought is ending. The famine is breaking. The chains of financial bondage are being shattered. God is standing over your life with power, and He is saying, now is the time. Now is the moment. I will release my provision, and nothing will stop it. Then hear me, because this is not the time for faint-hearted faith. This is the time for bold confidence in God. When God is preparing to release a financial miracle, He does not look at what you lack. He looks at the seeds of trust you have planted in the soil of faith. Many people believe that money alone will solve every problem, but money without God is like a river with no banks. It spills everywhere and destroys more than it blesses. But when God releases a financial miracle, it is not only about money, it is about order, wisdom, discipline, and favor. It is about shifting your entire atmosphere from scarcity into divine provision. There are some listening right now who feel trapped in cycles. Every time you rise a little higher, something pushes you back down. Every time you begin to save, a crisis wipes it out. Every time you dream bigger, something whispers, "It will never happen for you." But let me declare to you, those cycles are breaking. God is not bound by the patterns of your past. He is not limited by the failures of yesterday. When He moves, He severs chains that have been in your family line for generations. Debt that ran through your bloodline will stop with you. Poverty that lingered for decades will not cross into your children's lives. Because when God releases a financial miracle, He writes a new story over your household. You see, God does not simply provide to meet a need. He provides to establish His name in your life. Think of this. When you had nothing and still survived, it was God. When you thought the door was closed and yet something came through at the last minute, it was God. When the calculations on paper said it was impossible, but somehow the bill was paid, it was God. And if He carried you this far with the little, what will He do now with the abundance He is preparing? Do not make the mistake of believing your salary, your business, or your skill is your source. These are channels, but God is the source. The channel may dry up, but the source never does. One job may end, but God is already preparing another. One door may close, but He is building an entire hallway of new doors. You must lift your eyes higher. Stop measuring your future by your paycheck. Stop calculating your destiny by the size of your account. Begin to measure by the greatness of God. For His resources are limitless, His wisdom unsearchable, His ability beyond comprehension. Some of you are afraid that even if the miracle comes, you will not know how to handle it. Afraid that blessing might slip through your fingers like water. But let me tell you, when God releases abundance, He also releases wisdom. He teaches you how to steward what He gives. He trains your hands for increase. He sharpens your mind for opportunity. He strengthens your character for responsibility. A financial miracle from God does not destroy, it builds. It does not confuse, it clarifies. It does not overwhelm. It positions you to stand as a testimony of His faithfulness. I must also tell you this truth. Miracles are often preceded by instructions. God may ask you to move in faith before the release comes. He may ask you to forgive someone who owes you, even while you are waiting for your own debts to be canceled. He may ask you to give, not because He needs your money, but because He wants to free your heart from clinging to what you think is your security. He may ask you to trust Him enough to take a step that looks risky to the eyes of men, but is obedience in the eyes of heaven. Every act of obedience is like a key unlocking the vault of God's provision. Do not despise small beginnings. The miracle may not come in a flood at first. It may come as a trickle that grows into a river. But recognize it, honor it, and do not doubt it. God sometimes tests whether you will celebrate the small provision before He entrusts you with the larger one. If you can bless His name over 100, He will trust you with 1,000. If you can honor Him with a little opportunity, He will give you a greater one. The miracle is not just about the amount. It is about the transformation of your perspective. Let me tell you, many are waiting for financial miracles, but few prepare for them. Do not be caught unready. Build the vessel now, so that when the oil flows, it does not spill. Organize your life. Clear the clutter. Align your priorities with God. Position yourself in excellence, because when the release comes, it will come swiftly. You will not have time to prepare then. You must prepare now. And understand this: when God blesses you, He blesses you for a purpose beyond yourself. He does not pour out abundance for you to hoard in fear or indulge in waste. He blesses you to establish His kingdom, to bless your family, to lift the needy, to break the chains of poverty around others as He broke them for you. If your vision for the miracle ends with yourself, it is too small. God is too great to give you a miracle with such limited purpose. He will give you more than enough so that your life becomes a river of generosity, not a stagnant pond of self-interest. Even now, I sense in my spirit that God is shifting someone's expectation. You have been praying for enough to cover your bills, but God is saying, why stop there? Ask for more. Ask for the overflow. Ask for the abundance. Do not shrink your request to fit your doubt. Enlarge your faith to match His greatness. If God feeds the birds of the air and clothes the flowers of the field in splendor, how much more will He care for you? Lift your vision higher. Stretch your belief wider. The financial miracle that is coming will not only meet your needs, it will exceed them. Beloved, let your heart not be troubled. For the God who created the heavens and the earth is not blind to your struggles, nor deaf to your cries. He is the one who hung the stars in their place, who commands the seas to stop at the shore, who causes the sun to rise each morning. Do you think such a God is unable to provide for you? Do you think He has forgotten you in your season of need? No, He has been watching and He has been preparing. When God moves, He does not just meet your immediate need. He establishes a new order in your life. He uproots the weeds of lack and plants gardens of plenty. He takes what was empty and fills it with more than enough. Some of you have felt like you are always behind, as if you are running a race you can never win. Bills pile up before you can catch your breath. Opportunities vanish before you can reach them, and it feels as though your labor is swallowed by the ground. But let me speak life into your spirit today. God is about to change the pace of your life. He is about to accelerate you beyond the natural. What would have taken you 10 years, He will accomplish in 1. What looked impossible for your hands, He will place within your reach. God is not bound by time. He can redeem lost years, restore wasted opportunities, and multiply what remains in your hands. There is a principle you must understand. When God decides to release a financial miracle, He begins by breaking the spirit of fear. Fear is the gatekeeper of poverty. Fear tells you that you will never have enough. Fear whispers that if you give, you will lose. Where fear convinces you that opportunities are too risky, that dreams are too big, that blessings are for others, but not for you. But when God enters, He breaks the power of fear. He fills your heart with courage. He causes you to see possibility where others see impossibility. He gives you boldness to step into arenas you once avoided. Without fear, faith arises, and faith is the currency of miracles. Hear me, God does not bless laziness, but He blesses faith-filled action. A financial miracle is not always money appearing in your hand. Sometimes it is God breathing upon your ideas, turning small ventures into mighty enterprises. Sometimes it is God giving you wisdom in negotiations, causing men to favor you. Sometimes it is God aligning you with people of influence who will open doors you could never open on your own. Miracles come in many forms, but their source is always the same, the power of God. Do not compare your journey with another's. The way God provides for you may not look like the way He provides for someone else. He may bless one person with property, another with contracts, another with unexpected inheritance, and another with creative innovation. Do not despise your portion, for your miracle is tailor-made for your destiny. What God gives you will fit your hand, your calling, and your future. Others may not understand it, but you will know it is from Him because it will bear His signature. Peace, abundance, and sustainability. I must speak to those who feel forgotten. You have seen others rise while you remained in the shadows. You have watched your friends prosper while you struggled to pay your dues. You have asked, God, when will it be my turn? And I declare to you now, your turn is coming. The delay was not denial. The waiting was preparation. God was aligning you, purifying your motives, teaching you endurance. He did not want to give you a blessing that would crush you. He wanted to shape you so that when the miracle comes, you will not misuse it. When your turn comes, it will be worth the wait. Let me also tell you, when God releases a financial miracle, it comes with peace. Wealth without God is a curse. It torments, it enslaves, it consumes. But wealth with God is peace. You will not lie awake in fear of losing it. You will not be tormented by greed. You will not be bound by the anxiety of men who trust in riches. Instead, you will walk in rest, knowing your source is not the bank, not the client, not the market. It is God. You will sleep peacefully because you know He who provided will sustain. That is the kind of miracle God is preparing for you, abundance with peace. You must also prepare your words. Do not speak lack when God is speaking provision. Do not curse your own harvest with the language of doubt. Your tongue is a tool of life or death. If you continually declare, I will never have enough, then your spirit aligns with lack. But if you declare, God is my provider, my cup runs over, my hands will prosper, then you position yourself for abundance. Speak what God speaks and watch how heaven responds. Beloved, the world may tell you that the economy is collapsing, that opportunities are shrinking, that the future is uncertain. But you are not bound by the world's economy. You are aligned with God's economy. When others are crying famine, you will be feasting. When others are shrinking back, you will be moving forward. When others are losing, you will be gaining. Because God's system is higher than man's system, and when He decides to release a miracle, no earthly crisis can stop it. Some of you are standing at the edge of your miracle, but you must stretch your faith a little further. Do not quit now. Do not turn back. You have prayed, you have wept, you have labored. Now lift your hands and expect. Expectation is the womb of manifestation. When you expect, you create a space for God to fill. When you expect, you show heaven that you are ready to receive. Keep your expectation alive, for God is faithful, and He is about to pour out what you have long awaited. Beloved, let your spirit rise with courage, because when God begins to move in the realm of provision, He does not think in small measures. He is the God of overflow, the God who multiplies beyond calculation, the God who takes what is insignificant in human eyes and magnifies it until nations marvel. The financial miracle He is about to release into your life is not designed to merely get you by. It is meant to shift your story, to turn your wilderness into a testimony, to silence every voice that ever mocked your faith. Do not forget this. God is a God of suddenlies. You may have been in struggle for years, but in a single moment, He can reverse it. One connection, one idea, one open door, one unexpected opportunity. This is all it takes for God to alter the course of your financial destiny. And when it comes, it will not come as a trickle of relief. It will come like a flood that sweeps away the dryness of your past. That is why you must remain alert, watchful, and ready, for the miracle is often hidden inside what looks ordinary. Many of you are waiting for a bag of money to drop from the sky, but God often works differently. He plants ideas in your heart that others overlook. He positions you in the path of people who carry the key to your next level. He gives you courage to step into a business you once thought too risky. He whispers wisdom in the quiet of the night that becomes the foundation of your breakthrough. And when you act on it, when you obey, you will see that what seemed small was actually the doorway to abundance. God delights in multiplying the little that is surrendered to Him. Now, I must speak to those of you who have allowed despair to take root. You have convinced yourself that financial freedom is for others but not for you. You have said, maybe this is just my portion in life. Beloved, do not limit what God can do with the language of hopelessness. You are not forgotten. You are not condemned to struggle forever. God's plan for your life is not defeat but dominion, not scarcity but sufficiency, not bondage but liberty. If He feeds the beasts of the field and waters the deserts with rain, will He not also provide for you, His beloved? Lift your eyes. Your future is brighter than your past. Some of you think your background disqualifies you. You say, I was not born into wealth. I have no connections. I have no education. I have too many failures behind me. But God is not impressed by human credentials. He does not need you to have the right family name or social status to bless you. He does not require a perfect resume to lift you up. When He decides to bless, He bypasses every limitation and rewrites your destiny. He raises the forgotten. He promotes the overlooked. He chooses the least likely and makes them a spectacle of His glory. The financial miracle about to touch your life will not be the result of your pedigree. It will be the signature of God's favor. And when the miracle comes, it will not only change your bank account, it will change your identity. No longer will you see yourself as one who barely survives. No longer will you see yourself as a struggler in the shadows. You will see yourself as one sustained, equipped, and empowered by the Most High. You will walk with new dignity, with new boldness, with new influence. God's blessing will not only give you resources, it will give you confidence to step into arenas you once feared. But let me warn you, with great blessing comes great responsibility. God does not pour wealth into idle hands. He does not bless so that you may waste. He blesses so that you may build. He provides so that you may sustain others. He prospers you so that His name will be glorified through your generosity. Do not clutch the miracle with selfishness. Let it flow through you as a river. The more it flows, the more it grows. But if you dam it up in fear or greed, it stagnates and rots. God is preparing you not only to receive but to release, not only to gather but to give. The financial miracle that is coming to your life is also coming to break curses that have tormented your bloodline. Some of you have inherited cycles of debt, lack, and mismanagement. You grew up in households where poverty was normal, where money was always short, where opportunities were scarce. But hear me now, it stops with you. God is raising you up as a breaker of cycles, a destroyer of chains, a pioneer of a new story. Your children and grandchildren will not know the poverty you endured. They will grow up under the shadow of abundance because God has chosen you to carry the mantle of provision. Beloved, align your heart. Purify your motives. God searches the heart before He releases the miracle. If your only desire is to boast in riches, your hands are not ready. But if your desire is to honor Him, to bless others, to advance His will, then get ready. Your time has come. He delights in blessing those whose hearts are pure, for He knows they will use their abundance wisely. I tell you with authority, do not be afraid of wealth. Do not fear prosperity as if it will corrupt you. When it comes from God, it sanctifies rather than corrupts. It strengthens rather than weakens. It lifts rather than enslaves. It is the blessing of God that makes one rich and adds no sorrow with it. The sorrow comes when men chase wealth without God. But when God Himself releases the miracle, peace accompanies it like a faithful guard. Therefore, stretch your faith today. Expect more. Prepare more. Believe bigger. God is not finished with you. He has not led you this far to abandon you in lack. He is positioning you for increase that will shock even you. Soon you will look back on the nights of tears, the days of struggle, and you will say, if it had not been for God, I would not be here. And the glory will belong to Him alone. Beloved, hear this truth deep in your spirit. When God decides to release a financial miracle, no force in the heavens or on the earth can stop it. Men may oppose you. Systems may be stacked against you, and circumstances may appear impossible. But when God commands a blessing, it overrides every opposition. What God speaks must manifest. If He says increase, then increase must come. If He says overflow, then overflow must appear. If He says doors will open, then no hand can keep them shut. The decree of God is stronger than the schemes of men. And you must understand, when God blesses, He blesses in layers. The miracle He sends is not a single event, it is a chain reaction. He causes one opportunity to open the next, one blessing to birth another, one breakthrough to unlock many more. Like a stone dropped in water, the impact spreads outward. touching areas of your life you never imagined. You may think God is only about to help you with a debt, but He is planning to set you free from the very mentality of debt. You may think He is only sending you a contract, but He is actually raising you into influence you never dreamed of. God never stops at the surface. He digs deep and transforms from the root. Some of you have been crying to God for a miracle without realizing He is preparing you to become a miracle for others. He is about to bless you so abundantly that your hands will no longer stretch out only to receive, but to give. You will not be the borrower, you will be the lender. You will not always be asking, you will be the one others ask. This is the true purpose of divine provision, to shift you from the place of dependence to the place of dominion. But let me tell you with conviction, a financial miracle is not only about what you receive. It is also about who you become. If God gives you wealth, but you remain fearful, selfish, or careless, the blessing will slip away. But if you allow Him to change your character while He changes your circumstance, then the miracle will last. God is not only preparing resources for you, He is preparing you for resources. He is enlarging your vision, strengthening your discipline, and aligning your heart with His will. When the blessing comes, you will be ready to manage it, multiply it, and use it for His glory. Do not despise the hidden ways of God. Sometimes He removes certain things from your life, not because He wants to deprive you, but because He is clearing the space for something greater. Sometimes He allows you to be denied by people, so that when the miracle comes, you will know it was Him alone and not the hand of man. Sometimes He shuts doors so violently that you wonder if He has forgotten you, when in truth, He is redirecting you to the doors He has ordained. Trust His hand even when you do not understand His methods. I must also tell you, God honors faith in action. Some of you have been waiting passively, hoping something will fall into your lap. But faith without movement is stagnant. God rewards those who step out, who take risks guided by His voice, who move even when the ground feels uncertain. The widow who had only a little oil could have hidden it in fear, but when she obeyed God's instruction and began to pour, the oil did not stop flowing until every vessel was filled. Likewise, when you move with faith, God multiplies. The miracle is not in holding tightly. It is in releasing and trusting. Beloved, prepare for unusual favor. Financial miracles often come wrapped in divine connections. Someone you barely know may become the link to your breakthrough. A conversation you thought was casual may turn into the opportunity of a lifetime. A place you considered insignificant may be the ground where God plants your harvest. Be sensitive, for God's provision is often disguised as an ordinary moment. Stay alert, stay faithful, stay expectant, for the extraordinary is hidden in the ordinary. And remember this, God's provision comes with peace, but it also comes with purpose. Do not squander the blessing. Do not let greed blind you. Do not forget the source once your hands are full. Wealth is a test as much as it is a blessing. Will you remain humble? Will you remain generous? Will you remember that everything you have belongs to God? The true miracle is not just in receiving abundance, but in remaining faithful once you hold it. I speak to those who feel weary, those who say, I have been waiting too long. The wait has not been wasted. While you thought nothing was happening, was arranging everything in perfect order. The right people, the right timing, the right doors. All of it is being aligned so that when the release comes, it will be unstoppable. You will not have to force it. You will not have to beg for it. You will not have to manipulate for it. It will come smoothly, powerfully, undeniably, because God Himself has orchestrated it. So lift your head high. Do not allow doubt to poison your expectation. Do not allow past failures to dictate your future. The same God who brought light out of darkness, who split seas, who caused water to flow from dry rocks, that same God is working in your life right now. He has not abandoned you. He has not forsaken you. And He has not finished with you. He is about to prove that He alone is your source. And when the financial miracle comes, you will know it was no man, no system, no accident. It was God and God alone.